Hey everybody, welcome to the Young Turks. It is Friday though. Jimmy, isn't that something?
Drop it! Friday.
Jimmy just shaved 2 years off my life. Thank you.
Exactly. They were going to be good years too.
Oh, the good ones, of course.
Damn, imagine the medicine they'd have eventually. But anyway, it's Friday. It's a power panel.
When did
Mark
Iadarola
Thompson's
get
house?
funny? I knew him when he was a fresh-faced young guy, unsure of even where the men's room was when I used to know him. And now, look at him.
I just go in the corner.
He's in charge.
He's a regular Donald Trump over here.
Yeah.
As far as being in control.
He meant confident and reckless.
So Mark Thompson and some jackass are with me on the panel. And, of course, Jimmy Dore. You know him from his podcast, his show on YouTube, his book.
My best-selling book, my award-winning Comedy Central specials, my work in Iowa for the Young
quilting circle.
I do have
He's just involved in a lot of fun stuff. It's always fun to have you back.
The current guest on my podcast, which is called The Edge. You'll find it at edge-show.com. And Jimmy is our guest this week. We talked about a lot of stuff that wasn't all politics. That was cool. Jimmy did talk about he was going to Iowa, and I watched your Iowa stuff. It was really great. But we also talked about like life stuff and the planet and sort of like yeah, it was kind of cool.
My psychic.
You have a psychic, huh?
Yes, we did, which astounded me that Jimmy Dore has a psychic.
I have a friend who's a psychic. I don't really believe in that stuff that much.
Well, there was, but a chilling prediction that had to do with the Young Turks.
Yes.
Jimmy shared with us on the show. It has to do with the psychic.
Yeah.
The other thing is at the beginning of that show, the two women who are kind of a YouTube sensation, they're huge Donald Trump fans.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about? The two black women?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do remember
They brought Trump on a couple of these stump stops. They joined me by phone. So we have a quick conversation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So check that out. It's at edge-show.com.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. I have a prediction. I'm not a psychic, but I have a prediction that some of you watching this, especially after our coverage and seeing Bernie Sanders get all fired up yesterday, you might like this shirt. You might perhaps want to feel the burn yourself.
What a cool shirt.
And if you want to do that, it's available at shoptyt.com. But not only that, today, and I believe today only, you can use the code GameSetJohn to get 20% off if you buy this shirt and probably other shirts as well, although I can't vouch for that. But anyway, I've gotten a lot of tweets about it. That is where this shirt is available.
It is a cool shirt.
We also have a nice
game?
one. Game
with the M.
John. Yep.
Oh.
It's my online username.
I thought you said something.
For some reason, we're using that. Anyway, lots to get to from around the campaign trail. And then Obama has a progressive idea that even I hadn't thought of yet. So that should be exciting.
Okay.
But we have to get to it. It's the last story in the rundown, so we'll see if we get to it. It is exciting, though.
Yes.
So why don't we start talking about Jeb Bush? Maybe we can give him a break. We'll find out.
Come on.
Jeb Bush has a new campaign strategy, and it involves a significant addition of Bush, his mom. Not just his mom, that sounds disgusting, but his brother as well, who he had previously distanced himself from significantly on the campaign, not wanting to be tied to his brother's political legacy, not appearing very often with his brother, both his brother and his mother all of a sudden appearing all over the campaign trail with him. In this first video, you're going to see a joint interview that Jeb Bush did with his mother, as political candidates so often do, where his mother has a little bit of advice for him. Let's watch.
He's got the same values that America seems to have lost. He's almost too polite. I don't know if I gave him advice, I would say, why don't you interrupt like the other people do?
Really?
Yes, I would say that.
I've gotten better at interrupting, Mom. Come on.
You mean interrupt during the debate?
Yes. He's so polite. We brought him up that way. And he does not brag like some people we know.
Who are you talking about?
I can't remember.
Do you think someone else that's running for president is bragging too much?
I'm not getting in a spitting match with him. He can spit further than I can.
She would have made a great background extra in a cowboy movie. Just occasionally throw in a little zinger at one of the characters. So she had some advice for him there. He's too polite. He doesn't interrupt as they so often do. And of course you have to love Jeb's reaction. Come on, Mom.
Come on, Bug.
I'm breaking all the time.
Come on.
And he's trying to split the difference between, of course, likability is such a big thing in a presidential campaign, and he wants to be likable. But I hate to say it, but Mama's right in the sense that he's outgunned on that platform. I mean, he's just you've got to be aggressive when you're up against that crew.
Especially that big of a crew.
Right.
And with each of them trying to compete with the other to appear to be the biggest alpha male. Yeah, he doesn't particularly do well when he tries to break in. There were a couple other politicians in this cycle who did that. Well, they'll say, well, I'd like to respond. And then they say no, and he's like, oh, okay. And that's the worst. You might as well not even said anything. And I agree that it is good advice, but it's not good advice that you necessarily want your mom to give to you on live television.
Yeah, unless you feel as though, first of all, he's at DEF CON 1.
Oh, you think that could be more likable if he has that with his mom?
Right. I think he's just, of course, they're just throwing everything up against the wall to see what sticks. But I think he might have been perceived in his judgment or in the judgment of his people as someone who was overmatched in these debates. And so he's trying to kind of explain it away maybe with that, well, my son is polite. He's not willing to be an a-hole like the rest of those guys on stage.
Yeah, this is the spin is that
right.
Yeah, he comes off like a wimp, not because he's a wimp, but because he's well-mannered and he was raised correctly.
Exactly.
Yeah, but is that effective
and
to
of course,
say, well, be nicer to him, everybody. He's a polite boy.
If it were his only problem, it might be effective. He has a bunch of problems beyond that, right?
His you know how they tried to get away from the Bush name? They went Jeb exclamation. It should be shrug explanation. Come on. I say it should be Jeb explanation point. Please, what is the explanation? And,
seriously, please clap.
But that was
please clap.
Please clap. Come on, give me a break. Look, his entire campaign could be summed up in a shrug. Come on.
Well, that and the reaction from the audience. Oh, really?
Yeah,
like if I was running against a person, I would want him to say the please clap line. I don't know if you saw that video.
Yeah, no, of course. It was pathetic in a sense.
It was pathetic. And look, it wasn't as bad as the headlines
actually
made it out to be necessarily, but it's still fairly pathetic. He already got attacked by Trump, bullied by Trump, the last time his mom was out defending him out on her own. I have to imagine the ads that they're going to make out of this. Like, if you want to be portrayed as, they're already saying you're low energy. And now your mom is saying you're too polite. Like, they're going to put that into an ad, and you're never going to recover. He's never going to be able to walk outside of his house after this.
Well, I mean, I don't even know if inside the house is going to be so safe. I mean, I wouldn't want to go to a family reunion after the drubbing that he's getting. And as you say, all you string all this stuff together, and it looks like a Christmas video or something. I mean, it's really pretty rude. And there was a way to handle, like Jimmy Dore, you would have handled that situation where no one applauds on an applaud line. You say, well, what? I'm sorry, this crowd isn't into protecting the country, or that's not, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, everybody go, oh, yeah. You don't
or how about this? You're right, we should have a moment of silence for those lost abroad. Something like that. Because I like making jokes about dead soldiers.
Yeah, nice choice.
But at the beginning of that sentence where he begged them to please clap, if you watch the video, he starts talking, I'm not going to be out there shooting my mouth off, blow harden. He said blow harden.
He got that from
First, that is not the past tense of blow hard.
It's not, no.
The past tense of blow hard is blowing harder.
Which don't say that either.
I'm not going to be out there blowing harder.
Yeah, don't do that.
So it's not blow harder.
Yeah.
You can't, hey, are you out there hardering? No, you're blowing hard.
Well, we also have, I can't say for sure, both of these, the video that you just saw and the quotes I'm about to read happened yesterday. I can't say for sure that these quotes happened after, but I like to imagine that they did. You saw his mom giving him his advice on TV and him saying, come on, Mom.
Come on.
And he says this during a rally. He said that former First Lady Barbara Bush is not as great as everybody thinks she is.
Saw him say it.
I jokingly, oh, did you really?
Yep.
I jokingly say that when we were growing up in Midland and Houston, that Mom was fortunate not to have a child abuse hotline available.
It's real funny.
Bush added that the discipline of learning right and wrong was her doing, not his father's. I get that that's supposed to be endearing. Man,
Yeah.
if I'd been able to report her for abusing me, I would have.
Yeah, it's a good thing because she used to beat the shit out of us. Not hard enough to make us not commit war crimes, but we certainly did eat our peas.
Exactly, yeah.
That's right. This informed my brother's feelings about torture, right? Right. My mom used to waterboard us. I mean, not as bad as Guantanamo, or not as bad as... It wasn't a black ops type kind of discipline in my house, but...
He'd go to Abu Ghraib and just say, oh, stop complaining. I had it way worse as a 4-year-old.
Oh, come on. Give me a break. I grew up with Barbara Bush.
Seriously. Now, we have a little bit more from the rally, him speaking about his father, and I agree that this is a part of before he wanted to distance himself, make himself independent. He didn't even put Bush after the Jeb in his signs, but now he's bringing in all the relatives, and here he is talking about his father.
My dad was this perfect, idyllic man who, to this day, is the greatest man alive. But she was the one that taught us right and wrong, I can promise you that.
What the?
I like that he turned to his mom to say that. I still think it was kind of a cheesy line. Maybe he legitimately sort of choked up. I don't want to get into the whole thing of questioning whether politicians are really crying or not. I don't think there was an onion under the podium.
I will.
Yeah.
Because this is all theater. And it reminds me of when I was in Jefferson, Iowa, just a week ago. And
fine work, Jimmy.
Thank you. Ted Cruz, when he's taking the stage, there's his wife, Heidi. She introduces him. And then he gives her one of those Al Gore smooches, and he just envelops her because she's so tiny and he's a bigger guy. And he just gives her one of those really, and then he goes on and talks about, first thing is how much he loves her. And I love you. You're my sweet daughter, my angel. He calls her my angel, right? And it's like as if he just came back from Iraq, And it's like, but if you think about it, they're on the bus together. It's not like you haven't seen her.
That's true.
It's all theater. Yeah. It's all I got to go out and proclaim my love for you. So that's what this is. It's all theater. And who cries for a second and then there's no, come on. Give me a break.
I could see a guy choking up when he's talking about his old man, who's clearly got one. He's not in the. He's an old guy. He could go at any hour now. I mean, I'm going to give the guy the benefit of the doubt there, but it is. This is a crowd, and you talk about sort of hack, trite moments. This is a crowd. I mean, it's bizarre that it happens. That seems to eat up those hack, trite moments. And so, yes, they do serve up that crap. My God, that Ted Cruz acceptance speech that he was giving after he won Iowa. My God, it's still going on.
Glory be to God.
Yeah. And he had more and more of those beats, which are, Mom, I just want to say to you. I mean, that is theater, right?
Yeah.
But here the guy might have choked up talking about his dad. But I'm just saying those theatrical moments seem to somehow carry the water for more than they should, but they do.
Yeah, and Ted Cruz really hammers the
religion.
The religion, and he also hammers the spitefulness of religion, or the anger. And on my first day in office, I'll bring back hanging. He's one of those.
Did he actually say that?
I think he said that.
Yeah, maybe. They'd save money on the chemicals. Yeah, and we know that people loved the Trump response about how dare you say something bad about New York. 9/11 happened, and everybody went insane, as if Trump had done anything during the cleanup, as if he was within 7 miles of the event when it happened. But you simply say it, and people are like, well, that was a bad event, and you do still live in the general vicinity of that.
And if it were a wrestling match, you would have seen the referee go like that. 2 points for the reversal. You know what I mean? Right? It looked like, holy cow, he's getting. And then all of a sudden, Trump just turned it over. And so in a sense, they were, and he got all the, he got currency from that moment because he reversed it.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the big
Exactly.
I like the terms he uses.
And he not only knows politics, he knows wrestling too.
This guy.
I only know professional wrestling, which isn't quite the same thing. Now, that was his mother, his father. We also have his brother. You might have heard of him. He used to be the president. And with good reason, Jeb didn't used to talk too much about George W. because a lot of people in America have some bad memories, particularly in regards to the foreign policy of the former president. But things are getting desperate. And so the Right to Rise PAC, which of course does not coordinate with Jeb Bush's campaign in any fashion, put out this ad.
The first job of the president is to protect America. Our next president must be prepared to lead. I know Jeb. I know his good heart and his strong backbone. Jeb will unite our country. He knows how to bring the world together against terror, and he knows when tough measures must be taken. Experience and judgment count in the Oval Office. Jeb Bush is a leader who will keep our country safe.
Jeb Bush. Right to Rise USA is responsible for the content of this message.
I love that they technically can't coordinate these super PACs with the campaigns, and yet the brother of the presidential candidate, who used to be the president, is in the ad. You don't think that was coordinated just a little bit? Oh, we have such rigorous restrictions on the spending of money and
doesn't your blood just run cold when you hear Bush, who got us into this entire mess, thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people dying and trillions of dollars spent? My blood runs cold when I hear him talking about protecting this nation, prepared. It's as though I go back in my mind.
Well, you hear terror, and you think about that time again. Well, and him giving those speeches and raising the terror threat level. And
it's so funny that you bring him on, and the first thing he says, the number one job of the president is to keep America safe. That's like, you bring on the captain of the Titanic. Number one job of the captain is to keep us away from icebergs. I mean, literally, you didn't keep us safe. The worst terrorist attack in the history of our country happened on your watch.
Which, if that was it, then maybe, you know, it could happen under any president. The fact that he didn't listen to his advisors, particularly on counterterrorism, would make me not want to give him a pass on that. But to then say, okay, well, you know, if you don't like a few thousand Americans dying, how would you like far more dying in the Middle East? And then, of course, the reaction to Katrina. I mean, there were multiple times when he did not keep us safe, even in the capacity that the president has. They can't be involved in every decision in every state, but he had opportunities, and he flubbed them completely. Maybe there are some voters out there who used to like Bush, still have good memories of Bush, and they see Trump, and that scares them, because if they liked Bush, they probably aren't going to like Trump. He's a very different sort of politician. And so maybe the endorsement could actually help. I don't think that this is going to be enough to help him catch up to Rubio or to Cruz, let alone to Trump. And at the end, I would have said, if you're going to lose as a candidate, and I know that the Bushes aren't used to losing politically, they tend to win, lose as an independent man. Don't lose being dragged down by the legacy of your horrid brother.
Of course you're right. And I'm astounded that this would be the tack you take. Now, having said that, I'm also astounded at how much hay they've made about in regard to going over there and kicking ISIS's ass.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as though when Obama won, this was a war-weary America. We wanted it over. We knew it was a mistake. We knew it as a nation. It was before it even started, we thought it was a mistake. But then certainly by the time that Obama won, we were war-weary.
Yeah.
They hit the war chord so hard in all of these debates that it makes me wonder if, in a sense now, when you watch that George Bush spot, you're thinking, oh, maybe this will resonate, because they seem to, somehow, the GOP electorate seems to have a short memory on all of this. And maybe they feel, hey, let's go over there and really kick some ass this time.
And that's, I would say, why the candidates have spent so much time in all these debates, regardless of what the debates are supposed to be about, bringing it back to ISIS. You have to scare people so much that they forget how horrible, how tragic the reality of America abroad at war actually is.
Right, and it started with Taliban, then it went to Al-Qaeda, then now it's ISIS. It's as though there's a new boogeyman. And I'm not saying that there isn't some, we understand the realities about this. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but the notion that we could just go over there and carpet bomb them out of existence is absurd. And yet that seems to resonate somehow with their side of the aisle.
Yeah, resonate on their side of the aisle. And honestly, I would argue that the little that we've heard of specifics from either Bernie or from Hillary in terms of what they would do doesn't seem all that dissimilar from what Obama would do. And I would say that what Obama is doing sounds very similar to what most of the Republican candidates are. They say his strategy is terrible, but then they articulate his general strategy in regard to both Syria and ISIS.
I would also say, though, to be fair, and by the way, I don't support it at all, but I'm saying he seems to kind of like to wade into things. It's sort of the old Democratic way, right? And where there's an escalation that's sort of more wading into battle, whereas at least in their rhetoric, they're about full speed ahead with battle.
That's true, yeah.
So maybe that's the distinction.
Yeah, maybe that's more honest in a way.
No.
Yeah. Okay, let's turn to perhaps the most exciting story of the day. There's a new national poll out on the Democratic primary. And Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton are now, according to at least this one poll, which we're going to analyze in detail, neck and neck for the Democratic nomination, which is exciting stuff. Now, we're coming, of course, after the Iowa caucus, after both a town hall and a debate. Now, most of this data would, of course, have come before the debate last night, probably before the town hall 2 days ago, but certainly after the Iowa caucus. And we're seeing an effect. In the Democratic race nationwide, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has 44%, with Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont at 42% and 11% undecided. This compares to a 61-30 Clinton advantage in a December 22 survey by the same Quinnipiac University polling methodology. So this is comparing apples to apples. Now, this is one poll. One poll can be an outlier, but we are comparing Quinnipiac versus Quinnipiac about 2 months ago, and her massive lead, almost 30 points, has seemingly disappeared. You have a margin of error of about, I believe, 2.9% in this poll, which says that 2 points is actually within that margin of error. And we thought that there would likely be some movement after Iowa, perhaps after the town hall. And it seems like we are, in fact, getting that. I'm going to have some more data, but first, your reaction on the biggest portion from this poll.
Well, you just got back from Bernie land in a big way, Jimmy. The word is they truly believe that he could be the next president of the United States without question.
Well, you know what? I've said it over and over, is that I don't understand all the criticisms of Bernie Sanders and his lack of ability to win just defy reality, right? Because every poll has him beating the Republicans bigger than has Hillary Clinton. And again, we all know that he'll inspire more people to come out to the polls, whereas Hillary will have the flip-flop. She'll have the more Republicans come out to vote against her and less Democrats to come out to vote for her. Yeah. So it's going to be...
And he wins among independents.
And he wins kills among independents. So again, it's obvious to me that even the people who are for Hillary aren't enthusiastic for her. It's a fear. It's the, well, you'll be sorry when Ted Cruz is president.
Yeah.
So it's all that stuff, and these polls keep showing that the more people hear about Bernie Sanders, the more they like it. And, you know, everybody says that it's the socialism. Oh, they're going to call him a socialist in the general. They're going to call him a socialist. They've been calling Democrats socialists since FDR.
They called Obama a socialist.
They called Obama a communist, right? Yeah. They call him a Kenyan socialist, Muslim, communist, Christian America hater. And so, and none of that stuff is so, and so now people are like, wait, I have a computer in my hand and I can Google what a socialist is and I can see right away, I can see none of that stuff. So
Although distinction is, just to interrupt quickly, he calls himself a socialist. I think that's what self-described socialist. You'll hear it all the time.
Right. And
a social democrat, technically.
Right.
He doesn't actually call himself a socialist.
Right. But so, and that's why I think people can then Google it, and that's what's going to make the difference, is that's why young people and young women overwhelmingly are going for Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton. And I think, and the older voters don't, because they don't have this and they don't know how to do that. And it does scare them. And it's weird to see Democrats vote with their lizard brain, meaning that they're voting out of fear, right?
Or a lot of people have liked her for a very long time. They wanted her perhaps to have won, to win against Obama last time. So there's certainly, I mean, I know people who really like her.
I mean, last time I thought the majority of her support came because of the woman thing, right? And people had fond memories of the Bill Clinton administration. Well, you know, now we know that the economic problems of this country were exacerbated by Bill Clinton. We realize that what's wrong with the Democratic Party is that the whole political process has moved to the right. That Hillary Clinton, when she, you know, just a few weeks ago, she was bragging she was a moderate. Then she figured out that's not where the electorate is right now. So now she's a progressive. I'm a progressive who gets stuff done. No, you said you were a moderate who got stuff done. So it's weird to see Democrats vote like Republicans, meaning that they succumb to fear-mongering, that they succumb to disinformation. Everything she said at the debate last night was complete disinformation, or I would say 90% of it. It was her saying that it doesn't matter that you take big contributions from Wall Street. Barack Obama took big contributions from Wall Street, and he did the responsible thing. Well, no, he didn't, right? So if you think Dodd-Frank, by the way, Dodd and Frank, both on boards of banks right now. Keep that in mind. Yeah. Dodd and Frank, both of them are members of bank boards. Okay, so when Hillary Clinton says Dodd-Frank, and they're on board for this, remember they're both working for banks right now. And the people who aren't working for banks, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, want to reinstate Glass-Steagall and are against her plan and are against taking money from Wall Street.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get all into whether she is a part of the establishment or not.
Are we?
Don't worry about that. But I do want to get to a little bit more information from this poll, because most of the headlines are just talking about either that Trump is largely maintaining his lead, although Rubio is moving up a little bit, or that Bernie and Hillary are so close. But there's more information in here, and some of it confirms what you were just saying. So overall, Sanders and Rubio are the strongest candidates in general election matchups. And when they include former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, he tends to hurt Sanders more than he hurts any of the other top Republican contenders, which I think we would have expected. Now, let's talk about electability. We've been bringing this up in the past. We've got new numbers now. So general election matchups. Clinton versus Trump. She beats Trump by 5 points, which is great. Sanders beats Trump by, that's 10 points there, which is twice as great if you're counting. Clinton versus Cruz. She ties 45-45. Sanders beats Cruz by 4 points. Cruz did just win the last caucus. There's some chance he could become the nominee. I doubt it, but there's a chance. Clinton versus Rubio. She's losing to Rubio by 7 points. Sanders and Rubio are currently tied. Now, that's scary for me as a Bernie supporter, but it would be scarier to be down by 7, especially as Rubio is somewhat ascendant in the Republican Party right now.
And by the way, keep in mind as you watch all these numbers, it's important to keep in mind that the country knows exactly who Hillary Clinton is. And
they have as much information about her as they could have about any candidate at this point, because she's been in the public eye for something like 25 years.
Yes, if not more. And because she was the first lady of a state, and she was also working on the Watergate. I mean, she's been in the public eye for a while, but keep in mind that people don't know a lot about Bernie Sanders. So that's what I'm saying to keep in mind about. So they know her. So her numbers won't move. His numbers can move.
Yeah. Now, theoretically, they could move down. That would be the counter-argument, I guess.
Oh.
Now, I would say that...
But although all the evidence is the more people know about Bernie, the more popular he becomes.
Yeah. I mean, we looked at... I'm not going to go into all the favorability numbers, but we tracked his favorability on a show about a week ago throughout last year, and people didn't know a lot about Bernie Sanders. And you can attack Bernie Sanders for a lot of things, but what he is not is a guy who hides his political philosophy. He's very upfront about it, and his favorability continued to climb over the course of last year. He is now, amongst all of the candidates on either side, he has the highest favorability numbers.
Now, here's the counter that he's going to face, and it's already happening. He's going to face the drumbeat of his own party, the mainstream parts of his party, and you're hearing it. We can't work with Bernie. We can work better with Hillary. If you want to get things done, we need Hillary, not Bernie. We love Bernie. Bernie's great. Bernie's right about a lot of things. But the person who can help the executive branch work with us is Hillary Clinton. And that may start to cut where people, I mean, I'm looking at ways that his campaign could take on water. That might be one of them.
Well, and not only that, but it's happening right now, and we even have the quotes to prove that it's going on. Just as Hillary Clinton was clearly taking his chances more seriously in the past debate, you could see that in her body language, in her responses. It was no longer, I'm inevitable, I will tolerate having to debate with you. It's now so fiery that not only is she's running a real campaign against him now, but her and the Sanders campaign put pressure on Debbie Wasserman Schultz to actually have more debates. Still not as much as the Republican side, but more. Now, some of her supporters amongst Democratic Congress men and women and senators have come out. Representative Jerry Connolly of Virginia says, I believe it, being a Bernie nomination, could have real serious down-ballot consequences. I'm not comfortable with it at all, says Representative Scott Peters of California. He certainly wouldn't match my district very well. Senator Claire McCaskill, who is with all of the other female Democratic senators, except for Elizabeth Warren, currently on bus tours, appearing with her in New Hampshire, and they're going to go to South Carolina afterward. She says this is about leadership. It's about who can bring people together and accomplish the things we all want. He's not been able to move the needle in 25 years in Congress. Now, Raul Grijalva, who is one of the currently elected Democrats, yes, exactly, who has come out and endorsed Bernie, says, McCaskill's approach evokes the ghost of former Wisconsin Senator Joseph McCarthy. It's red baiting, and you'll probably see more of that, unfortunately, but I don't think it's going to stick. And so we just gave you a couple of examples of this, and you're going to see even more. While I believe the media after Iowa has been more fair to Bernie than I predicted, probably because they're more interested in the entertainment value of a hard primary as opposed to supporting the candidate that they prefer, the established politicians, aside from Elizabeth Warren, who hasn't yet given an endorsement, are coming out hardcore and putting pressure on people to not support Bernie Sanders. Exactly as you were predicting.
And you're seeing two things in those quotes. You're seeing, we can't work with this guy, even though we like him. We'll get more done with Hillary. But you're also seeing there, which I didn't mention, you're seeing the effect on our electability, on our ability to control Congress and our ability to hold our seats. That's going to be affected if Bernie Sanders wins.
Yeah.
So they're talking about two things there. Neither of one of them. I don't know if it'll work. You know, I don't know if Bernie Sanders is going to suffer at the hands of this.
Yeah.
But you're going to see more of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's entirely possible, and they're going to say it whether it's probable or not. But I think it's somewhat probable. But of the limited evidence we actually have, it's easy to say a candidate is going to inspire more turnout. The only evidence we have so far is the Iowa caucus, where he beat the polling. He was down 3 to 5 points in aggregate against Hillary, and he ended up losing by 0.3%. And we know that he won the youth vote by like 84 to 14 or something like that. So to the extent that we have any ability to show that he can bring more people out than polling would indicate, so far he is doing that. Now, overall, fewer people came out in Iowa than did 8 years ago, which is somewhat scary. But overall, I mean, in a general election, if you're trying to get people to come out in favor of you and hopefully have a down ballot effect, I mean, you've got young people, theoretically, who don't often vote at high rates. He's currently destroying Hillary amongst them. You have independents, who he's beating handily against her. And we already know that her unfavorables are much lower, even amongst Democrats. Now, she is a popular Democrat, but she's far less popular amongst Democrats than Bernie Sanders, let alone amongst independents. And not that it matters as much, but against Republicans as well, because we know that whether it's fair or not, and it's certainly some mixture of the two, Republicans despise Hillary Clinton. Yeah. So I think it's perfectly legitimate to say that he might hurt them down ballot, but he might also help them. And it's harder to make the case that Hillary is going to inspire a groundswell of support amongst the groups that you typically need to do much better than predicted.
That's a great counter. I mean, that really is. That's the counter to it. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, look, I'm having a lot of fun, but unfortunately, we do have to take our first. No, please clap. Please clap. Come on, give me a break. We do have to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to have more with Mark and Jimmy and myself. Let's see, what do we've got? Oh, we're gonna break down one of the answers at last night's debate and try to figure out whether Hillary Clinton is actually a part of the establishment or not. So stick around. We'll be back after this.
Welcome back to TYT. Guess what we're ready for? A new power panel. Drop it. All right. You guys ready?
Yeah, which way to the caucus? That way.
Okay, guys, so use the hashtag TYT Live to tweet to us, as many of you have already been doing. We are having a Super Bowl watch party over the weekend, so you can tune in to tytnetwork.com/live to watch that. And then on Saturday, we are covering the Republican debate, and that's going to be fun.
And the difference between those two things here at TYT is that one involves a drunk jank, and the other
has football in it.
Alcohol. Thank you very much. That's why he's funny, Jimmy Dore.
All right, and I do believe Cenk will be back this weekend, so definitely for the Super Bowl party. I'm not entirely sure for the debate yet, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, let's start off with some of the stories. CNN hosted a town hall, and Donald Trump answered a few questions from audience members. One audience member had the audacity to ask him a question that many women have been wondering about. Take a look.
Holding.
Throughout the course of this campaign, you've said some disparaging comments about women, about people from other countries, other religions, and about everybody who's disagreed with you. Explain to me how I can look at my daughters and have them look up to a President Trump as a role model.
Well, first of all, nobody. Who asked you to give this question? Did Anderson? No. This is a CNN, by the way, this is a CNN setup, but that's okay.
It's not.
That's a CNN setup. So he started off by getting very defensive. I mean, look, you're running for president of the United States, right? So you shouldn't have such a negative reaction to when you're doing a town hall and the people ask you a question that they genuinely want to know the answer for.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't think that it was set up by CNN. All those questions are vetted by CNN. They're not just going to allow people to ask whatever they want on the spot. And I think that was a perfectly fine question for them to allow.
Yeah, he gets so annoyed when somebody stands up and they don't say, Mr. Trump, how do you get your shirt so crisp and white? It's, you, as you say, look, you're running for public office. If you can't handle that question, especially given the rhetoric that he's laid out, come on.
He's all bark. It's hilarious.
He is all bark. I would like to see, more of how Anderson Cooper I didn't even know they did that interview.
There's a little more of the video that we'll go to in just a second.
you know, that's what Trump does, and I want to see if Anderson Cooper let him get away with that. I mean, if you got to say you can't handle that, that's what I would say. Just make him look like the wimp that he is, because that's what a bully does, right? So when you stand up to the bully, he just kind of retreats, and he does, and that's what he's doing right there. And what Anderson Cooper should have said, no, you're not going to answer the guy's question. That's why we're here.
That's exactly right. But of course, Anderson Cooper isn't going to challenge
He's
him.
Like, no,
we didn't do it.
I didn't. Come on, give me a break.
But it's the obsession with access, right? Having Donald Trump on your network is a big get. And if you ask him the tough questions, well, then he's going to have a fit, just like he did with Megyn Kelly, and refuse to do a debate or refuse to appear on the network.
And just like he began to do there, I guess, oh, it's CNN. I get it. So this is what I'm going to get at CNN. I'm going to get these kinds of questions. You got that right away. Oh, my God. I hope he doesn't get too angry at us.
Right.
You're absolutely right.
That's so true. So let's look at the second video that gives you his answer to that pretty tough question that I liked.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. 30 years ago, I had a woman building a major construction job in New York City, and that never happens. That just didn't happen. I have so many women executives. In fact, your people actually came over and checked, and they couldn't believe it. I have so many women executives. I have been great to women, and women have been great to me. They've done a great job.
He has binders full of women, right? Some of his best employees have been women. They love him. Get out of here.
The women love him so much, they don't even prosecute him when he rapes them. His wife talked about how...
Oh, that's right.
His own wife talked about how she was sexually assaulted by him. Of course, he gave her some money, and now she has to shut up about it. She's not allowed to talk about it. So Donald Trump, a disgusting human being, and it's nice that Anderson Cooper is very nice to him.
Yeah, Anderson Cooper was very nice to him. He immediately changed the topic after he gave that answer. So he started off by saying, women love me. I hire women to work for me. They love me, right? That's basically his answer. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And then right after, he's like, you know, people don't like me because I bring up the issues that people don't want to talk about. You know, I bring up immigration. I bring up those Muslims, and people don't like it. Yeah, people don't like it because you're racist and you're bigoted, and when you bring up the issue of immigration, it's a non-issue in the country at the moment. We have more Mexican immigrants leaving the U.S. than coming in. And so we're talking about building walls. We're talking about an issue that we're not really having a problem with right now. Why don't we focus on real problems, right? Like the economy. What would he do to fix the economy? He hasn't outlined a comprehensive economic plan. That's because he doesn't have one.
And it's because he has latched onto the emotional triggers as opposed to the things that really affect us. As you say, the immigration thing, really, when you look at it, isn't the issue. I mean, the immigration from south of the border, as you suggest, is going the other way.
Right.
So, but he has found the emotional triggers, and they've worked. And he's just made such great political hay with that he continues.
Right, and I think that the reason why those emotional triggers resonate with so many low information Republican voters is because they're angry, right? They're feeling the government corruption, but they don't understand what's really at play there.
Because their media lies to them.
Their media lies to them, which is why I refer to them as low information voters. I don't think that they're dumb, right? I think that they're ignorant, right? Because if you're aware of what's happening in government right now, if you're aware of the political corruption, if you're aware of why your wages are stagnant and why you're living in poverty, then you're not going to be obsessed or upset, I should say, at your fellow middle class or working class in person. You know, you're going to be upset at the system that's holding you down. They don't know that. And so Donald Trump takes advantage of that ignorance, and it's really frustrating to see because it's working.
Yes, it's propaganda, and the easily manipulated. And so, you know, I agree with you that they're ignorant, they're not dumb, but there is certainly an incuriosity about them. There's something wrong with them because we live in a day and age of the internet. And if you're ignorant about stuff that you care about, that's your own fault. Before you have to get in a car, take time out of your day, go to a library, look stuff up, I don't even know how to use the stupid, whatever they have in the library. I don't go. And what are they, the Dewey Decimal System and the whole thing, and microfilm. I'm not going to do, but all right here, what is it? What is Trump's position on this? What is that? You got it right on your phone. So if you're ignorant to the fact that your right-wing media, but they don't care. It's that cognitive dissonance. Ted Cruz has been given 30 million Pinocchios from PolitiFact. Like 90% of his statements are all pants on fire, and no one gives a shit, right? Yeah. Same thing with Donald Trump. He can't find tape of Muslims cheering 9/11, but he can't find video of Mexicans in Morocco. which is amazing, right? So, and they just don't give a shit, right? I was talking to a Trump voter in Jefferson, Iowa, and I said, Ted Cruz has taken $36 million from 4 different donors. Now, if he's taking that kind of money from 4 guys, how can he represent the people? And she just said, I don't believe he's doing that. It's your
right
phone.
here.
Look it up.
No, that's another thing that drives me crazy. The people who are so sure about their political position that even if you give them evidence that says otherwise, they just straight out reject it. And it's frustrating. I mean, like yesterday, for instance, someone sent me a link to a Slate article that was written about Bernie Sanders and how he wasn't as pro-gay rights as everyone thinks he is. And the first thing I did is I opened it up. And I'm like, I got to read this. Maybe there's something in there that I was missing. And I read it, and the writer's basically arguing that, yeah, he voted against DOMA, but he did it for the wrong reasons. He believes that gay rights is a states' rights issue. He voted against DOMA, dude. Move it along, right? So, but here's the thing: like that information is important. If there's info there that goes against what you believe, don't reject it. Take it in. Be smarter. It's
but these
okay.
are almost faith-based voters. As I hear, that's really what you're getting.
Yeah.
It's like arguing with somebody over Jesus. Don't bother. Their position on Jesus, your position on Jesus is not going to be compromised. There's nothing they can say, and there's nothing you can say. And that's kind of what you're saying is happening on the GOP side of things.
Absolutely.
Yes, you can't reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into.
Exactly.
Right? That's what we're talking about. And I also read another quote recently that it's easier to deceive someone than to convince someone they're being deceived.
Yes, that's very true.
Because they'd have to admit, yeah, I was getting taken. I'm kind of dumb.
And no one wants to admit that. It's not even about being dumb. People get lied to, and that doesn't make you dumb.
Especially once you fervently have taken a position.
Yeah.
You know, when you are in a lather in support of Trump or Cruz, it is much harder to get off of that ledge than it is if you were just sort of, well, I'm leaning, you know.
And that's what's supposed to make us liberals, again, that we're evidence-based, right? So as soon as Barack Obama revealed himself to be a corporatist, we admitted it. We didn't start pretending, oh, he's a good guy, and he's not. He's fighting for the people.
And it was tough to admit it. It's embarrassing.
But we did
I was campaigning for him
Me too.
in 08, and I was super proud of him and super excited when he was elected. And then admitting that he's a corporatist sucked. But you got to be honest with yourself and obviously honest with the audience. All right, let's move on to dildos.
Wait a minute.
Somebody send me that. Somebody send me that as a Vine. I want that Anna Kasparian line sent to me. I'm on Twitter at Mark T Live. I want it.
Make a GIF. I love them. All right. A New Zealand politician got hit in the face with a dildo from an opponent. Now, this person is actually very upset at the Economic Development Minister. His name is Stephen Joyce, because he voted in favor of TPP. As you guys know, we've been very critical of TPP as well. But this unidentified woman took it to another level when she did this.
Absolutely. We always take something away from every meeting.
That's for raping our sovereignty. I know. Yeah, I know.
So it's hard to really distinguish what it is about TPP that she doesn't like. We've had lengthy discussions on the show about how it gives too much to pharmaceutical companies, especially since they're able to patent certain drugs for a longer period of time so generic versions can't come out. Lots of little elements like that that really do have an impact on those who are poor and those who can't afford certain things that they need to survive.
She mentioned sovereignty in that.
She did mention that. So let me give you her full quote. She says, "That's for raping our sovereignty. That's for raping our country because of the TPPA and selling our rights and our freedom," the angry penis-wielding woman screamed, referring to the controversial Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was signed yesterday in New Zealand.
Now, the sovereignty part of that could relate to a lot of the environmental details associated with TPP, as you're aware. It gives a lot of the sovereign rights of even the United States of America away to foreign countries that will come here and do everything from mineral and oil exploration to anything, a bunch of other things that you'd think, well, we have control of it ultimately. No, not anymore. Under this agreement, literally, we could be sued by a foreign power for mineral rights that they've acquired in a state in the U.S. So maybe that is part of. I would see the overlap certainly when it comes to sovereignty in that regard.
Well, the sovereignty, it goes to. It's already. There's already deals like, for instance, they with oil tankers, right? So they put a regulation, hey, we need to have double-hulled oil tankers, right? So there's not just one layer of steel, there's two, so it's harder to... But there's a lot of tankers that just have one. So if you pass, like in Seattle, they passed the law, you can't bring single-hulled oil tankers into our harbor. Well, they go to the World Court and they say, hey, according to the TPT, we can't. So we don't get to say what comes in our country.
Right.
Some other foreign world court. The exact thing that the right wing is worried about Barack Obama doing, they're all doing together.
Yeah, they are all doing it together.
They
which
are.
is why, look, most of their criticisms of the Obama administration is political theater. It's not genuine, because they do the same thing. And to be quite honest with you, Obama is such a moderate Democrat that he does a lot of the things that Republicans want him to do. He's done so many concessions, especially when it comes to agreements like TPP, especially when it comes to, you know, corporate tax loopholes and all that stuff, not regulating the banking system. So it's all disingenuous. But let's get back to the dildo. It's always amazing to me that dildos make appearances in political stories like this, and it involves someone discarding a dildo. Don't throw the dildo away. Keep the dildo. It's useful.
You mean put a string on it like a yo-yo, so you hit it and bring it right back?
Even better. Then you can reuse it.
Talk about yank crankers.
I love the effectiveness of a dildo. I mean, she's found the one thing that you can throw at this politician to really get this kind of discussion going.
To show that he's raped.
Right, thank you. Raped their sovereignty. I mean, it really is clever. I mean, you know, look, George Bush, they threw a shoe at him. It was the tradition, you know, over there to do that, to, you know, show your protest by throwing a shoe. But the dildo, far better. I mean...
Yeah. I mean, look, I think it's funny, but there's also that worry that someone might actually get hurt. Like, I don't condone any type of assault. Like, that's assault. You can't throw shit at people.
Well, I thought actually you were going to play the other way, which is if it did it here, it would be bam, 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 and now she's dead. I mean, that is a far more likely scenario than...
In the U.S., absolutely.
Yeah,
that's scary to think about.
Dildo-shaped bullets, right? I wish they're already shaped like dildos, I guess.
I feel like we would be more willing to regulate dildos in this country than regulate guns.
Oh, definitely.
I think there were some...
Especially the squirty ones.
There were some... Oh, God. There were some municipalities that had outlawed sex toys. I forget exactly which like county it was, but it's happened before in the U.S., which is amazing. Like, we'll outlaw sex toys, but we won't outlaw those guns.
Well, I mean, sex is, you know, as you know, I mean, it's the Puritanism that runs through many parts of this country. I'm not at all surprised. Didn't know that, but I am now that I hear it. It makes sense.
Yes. Came home one day from the road, found my wife on the couch with a dildo. I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's sitting right next to her. You know, different kind of dildo.
Oh my God.
Different kind of dildo.
I get it.
All right. I was going to ask a very personal question, but I'm just not going to.
No, my wife does not.
Okay, fair enough. Let's take a break. When we come back, more fun, including people promoting Bernie Sanders on a very unexpected platform. I'll tell you what that platform is.